Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I am your host, Nick. You are listening to episode 104 of Talking Blue. We are here today to recap the Dodgers and the Rays series, the Tampa Bay Rays, which just wrapped up a little less than an hour ago at the time of this recording. The Dodgers sweep the Rays. All three wins come via one-run wins. Every win was by one run. So very close, very good games. Tampa Bay Rays are a pretty good team, probably the second best team in the American League right now behind the Yankees, and Dodgers swept them. All right, had to face three very good pitchers. I'm going to get into all that stuff, but very good series overall. Dodgers sweep, and as you can see by the title of this video, they have the most wins in baseball, best record in baseball. The only reason I pause to say best record is because I believe if the Braves play later tonight and win, technically they have the better record, but the Dodgers have the most wins in baseball. 48 wins, I believe. Very close. Hopefully they can get to 50 wins this weekend against the Baltimore Orioles. So, of course, as always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on all social media at Talkin' Blue Pod. That is Instagram, TikTok, and X. And you can follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. All right, so before we get into the three games, let's do some injury/roster stuff. The first one, pretty exciting one, Tommy Edman. Welcome back, Tommy Edman. It is June 17th, and we get to talk about Tommy Edman. He was activated Tuesday, and he was in the starting lineup today, Wednesday. He got to start at third base. First time we got to see Tommy. Very cool. They were talking about it on the broadcast, and I guess some reporters who asked Dave Roberts, who said he expects Tommy to play 3 to 4 times a week, play second base, he'll play some third base, and he'll actually play some left field, which is pretty interesting. So they won't necessarily view Edman, at least not right away, as a full-time, like he's the second baseman, a little bit of a utility guy, which is kind of what his role is. I feel like the Dodgers have always viewed him as they want him to be a second baseman or a center fielder, or basically just an everyday player wherever he is on the field position-wise, but always in the lineup every day. So they're obviously going to be careful with him. He has had a ton of ankle issues. I mean, when he was acquired by the Dodgers at the trade deadline in 2024, he did not make his debut until August. He wasn't activated because he was dealing with ankle issues at that time. He, I believe, had surgery earlier in the year, did not play the entire year with the Cardinals at the time, he basically played a little less than 40 games in 2024. Last year, came back, played mostly a full season, but did deal with the ankle issues kind of like the entirety of the year, didn't really go on the IL until August, and then that kind of hampered him throughout the rest of the year. And he decided in the offseason to get the ankle surgery to hopefully put all this behind him. So he's had a long injury or long ankle history, I should say. But hopefully it's all behind him. I've actually always really liked Tommy Edman. Great versatile player, and I've always thought there was more in there in terms of the bat. I actually predicted, if you're an early fan of this podcast, last year, 2025, before the season started, I actually predicted Edman would be an all-star because I thought the Dodgers would get the most out of his bat, and then obviously he's a great defender wherever you put him. And that was actually looking very smart the first month of the season. If you remember, basically through the end of April last year, he had an OPS over 800, I believe. He had 8 home runs. He was looking like a career year. And then after that, he just fell off a cliff with the offense. His OPS ended up falling below 700 for the year. And I believe a lot of it was because of the injuries that he had, the ankle stuff that kind of hampered him. And so he will play some left field. I didn't realize that they actually said that. Interesting, because last year he started the year basically as the Dodgers center fielder. Again, he was always going to be a versatile guy. And what kind of developed as the season went on was that Andy Pages turned into a very good defensive center fielder. But they kind of made their mind up with, they had Conforto at the time to play left field. Teoscar Hernandez was going to play right field. So whenever they would have Tommy Edman in center field, it was kind of this weird positioning where they would have Andy Pages play left field, even though he has by far the strongest arm and is their best center fielder, or best outfielder, I should say. And then Teoscar would be in right. And really, when you look at it, it does kind of make a lot of sense for Edman to play left field. He does have great range, and he actually has a better arm than people would probably expect. But with how elite Pages is, given his range and his arm, you can't take that guy out of center field. You got Tucker in right, so makes all the sense in the world that if he plays the outfield, he should get some time in left field, and obviously considering that Teoscar Hernandez is currently injured. So hopefully, I really like Edman's bat. I always thought he's had great plate discipline. He really can handle left-handed pitching. As a switch hitter when he hits from the right side. I think he's very good. I like what he does from the right side of the plate. I wouldn't mind if he did some good things offensively and kind of became an everyday player at second base, because I think he would play great defense. But obviously, Alex Freeland, they don't lose anything with Freeland. He's actually a really, really good defensive second baseman. So we'll see how all that plays out. If he just ends up being a utility guy who plays mostly against left-handed pitching and, plays 3 to 4 times a week, I'll be okay with that too. I really like Tommy Edman. So just really cool to see him back in the lineup. So I'll finish up the injury stuff quickly because it's already been like 6 minutes on Tommy Edman. Will Smith, he will not be activated Friday when he is eligible to come off the IL with the neck stuff. I don't believe that is anything too bad from what Dave Roberts has said, but I think they just want to give him a little bit more time. He is, like I said, eligible to come off Friday from the injured list, but he's not going to come off. Teoscar Hernandez, I've been looking for some updates on him. We have one finally. He will participate in a sim game tomorrow, simulated game, just live at-bats basically, and he could go on a rehab assignment shortly after. So hopefully, if all things go well, I would imagine Teoscar sometime next week, rehab assignment. Could probably see Teoscar back before the calendar turns to July, which is actually a little encouraging. Brock Stewart, very close to returning, just needs a back-to-back on his rehab assignment. That's a normal thing that relievers have to pass when they get called up, pitch on back-to-back days and see how they recover. So I would imagine sometime next week he is probably activated. Tyler Glasnow continues to be the worst of all these injury updates. He's currently not throwing and hasn't made any progress with his back. Really, really sucks. I still believe he'll be back at some point and probably like sometime in July. But every week that goes by that we get like a poor update just pushes him back so far because he's been out long enough now that he's going to have to, he's going to need like a pretty long ramp up. And if he's nowhere near like the next 3 weeks, we're not even like, we're not close to seeing him come back. He's basically going to need like a full spring training. So let's say at some point in July he starts to feel better. Then he's going to need like almost not a full month, but like 2 to 3 starts. So it's like you start to really push things back to like August, and that just sucks because it's like nothing is worse than, we don't really think it's that big of a deal, and then it turns into we don't even know what's going on. So I still think he'll be back ultimately, and we all know that he is such an injury-prone guy. One, it's not an arm issue, which is good. And then two, the Dodgers kind of know, like, we don't really care about Glasnow, like, competing for a Cy Young. Obviously, he personally would like that, and they would never say this. But, really what you want is Tyler Glasnow, just like last year, ready to go down the stretch of the year and ready to make 3 to 4 starts in the postseason, maybe even come out of the bullpen like he did. So, just kind of sucks because I've always just wanted to see Glasnow get a full season under his belt, and we're not going to see that in 2026 once again. All right, 9 minutes in, let's get to these actual games. Monday night, Eric Lauer is taking the ball against Nick Martinez of the Rays, the right-hander. Let's go to the top of the first. Ryan Vilade. I'm actually not sure if that's how you say his name. Viladi. Anyways, comment below if I'm saying it wrong. Ryan hits a home run to left field in the top of the first. Rays immediately go up 1-0. The Rays, who do not slug at all. Top of the second, a sack bunt from Tyler Walls brings in a run. Cedric Mullins comes in to score. RBI for Tyler Walls, 3-0 Rays. In the bottom of the second inning, though, this is a great sign. This is what we want to see. A 3-run shot from Kyle Tucker ties the game, hits it out to right field. His first home run at Dodger Stadium, I believe, since April 25th against the Mets. All right, his 6th home run of the year ties the game at 3 apiece. Bottom of the 7th, the Dodgers take the lead thanks to a solo home run, a pinch hit home run from Miguel Rojas, puts them up 4-3. The Dodgers bullpen would keep the Rays at bay, and they win by a score of 4-3. Eric Lauer goes 6, Kyle Hurt for 1, Will Klein for 2/3 of an inning, Vesia for 1/3, and then Tanner Scott for 1. He gets his one save, first save of the series. He actually has 2 saves. Spoiler. His 8th save of the year. All right, so great opening win, couple home runs, not a ton of offense. Actually a theme throughout this series. Dodgers win a 1-run game. Let's start with Eric Lauer. I wanted to give some numbers on him. He's actually pitched pretty solid since putting on a Dodger uniform. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. He allowed the 1 home run. All right. He's not a big swing and miss guy. I know I haven't really even delve too deep into Eric Lauer, but since he came, once he came over from the Rays, he was giving up a ton of homers. He was even allowing walks, no strikeouts, just basically everything you could do on the mound that will make you a bad pitcher. He was doing it, and it obviously led to him getting DFA'd from the Blue Jays. I don't know if Lauer will stick around. At some point, he'll probably be either moved to the bullpen as a long man, or maybe even will eventually get DFA'd. But he's making the most of his opportunities, and he's eating innings. That's what the Dodgers can really appreciate with Snell and Glasnow on the IL. But I just wanted to give these numbers as to what he's done in a Dodger uniform. Dodgers obviously saw something, and I wasn't able to dive in and see specifically what has changed with his pitch mix. I think it has to do with less forcing fastball, a little bit more cutter and changeup, and a little bit less breaking balls. But I wasn't able to find exactly the pitch usage difference from Blue Jays to Dodgers. But in 36 1/3 innings pitched as a Blue Jay, he had a 6.99 ERA, so basically a 7 ERA, with a 16% strikeout rate, a 9.9% walk rate, so a well below average K rate, a not well above average walk rate, but an above average walk rate, 24.8% ground ball rate, and a 264 batting average against. In 4 starts as a Dodger, all right, a 3.22 ERA, so more than cut in half as a Blue Jay. The strikeout rate is 15.9, so 16% strikeout rate is the same. So he's not striking out more hitters. But what is the difference that has led to more success? The ground ball rate. So I just said 24.8% ground ball rate. As a Dodger, 37.9% ground ball rate. So a big increase in ground balls. Obviously, less fly balls, more ground balls are going to lead to less slug, less balls in the air, less home runs, less extra base hits. The more ground balls, the better, especially when you do not get a ton of strikeouts. What he's also done is improved the walk rate. 9.9, like I said, as a Blue Jay, 5.7 as a Dodger. So again, nearly 10%, almost down to 5%, so almost cut in half his walk rate. And then the batting average against is 222. So I'm not able to dive into the pitch mix necessarily, but just on the surface, less walks, more ground balls. That is a recipe for better pitching. Again, I always say with Justin Robleski, and we'll get into him in a minute, it's hard to be a super elite pitcher when you don't get a ton of whiffs and strikeouts. One way to kind of negate that or oppose that is get ground balls and pound the strike zone. So Lauer's taking a page out of the Justin Robleski book. All right, after Eric Lauer, 3 scoreless innings from the pen. They actually pitched pretty good in this series, which was at the top of my list for things to see in this series because the pen has been bad lately. The last 2 to 3 weeks have been really, really cold. 3 scoreless innings. Like I said, Kyle Hurt, Will Klein, Alex Vesia just got 1 out, and then Tanner Scott got the save. And those guys actually pitched a lot in this series, so that's very nice. And then Kyle Tucker, I just wanted to give him some credit. First home run at Dodger Stadium since April 25th. Like I said earlier, that came against the Mets, actually. Long time. All right, now he's not tearing it up as of late, but the numbers have slightly improved. So a 779 OPS in his last 7 games. Again, that is not tearing it up by any means, but still an improvement. because he's been pretty cold the last 3 weeks. 379 on base percentage. That's very good. All right, that is a big time on base. The 400 slug is what we would like to be a little bit higher. 400 slug, that's not really that great. Nothing horrible, but you would like to see the slug north of 450, as close to 500 as you can. For some reason, he has been very bad at home in 2026. I'm not sure why. They always show this on the broadcast, but these are the numbers. All right. This doesn't include today, where I believe he had one hit off of McClanahan, but he at home, he's hitting 198 with a 297 on base. That's a horrible on base. A 322 slug is even worse. That is a horrible slugging percentage. 619 OPS. All right, so he's god-awful at Dodger Stadium. On the road, though, 277 batting average, 370 on base, which is good. 445 slug, which is pretty good. 816 OPS. That is more in line with what Kyle Tucker is at in his career. And up until a couple weeks ago, when he was really struggling the last 3 weeks or so, these numbers on the road were much more in line with what he's at in his career. Like 850 OPS, 840 OPS. That's where he's kind of normally at in his career. So for whatever reason, away from Dodger Stadium, he's been much better. But he was pretty solid in this series, so hopefully he can continue that. Please get hot, Kyle Tucker. I mean, we are not that far away from the calendar turning to July. Like, we're almost kind of halfway through the season, I guess. He still has a ton of time to turn it around. His OPS is like 720s. If he gets hot, finishes out June strong, has a good July, we could still see like a very good season from Tucker. The only 6 home runs. It's very late in the season to have like a 30 homer season, but I could still see an 800 OPS. I could still see a good on base. He's just got to get hot. He's oddly also been much better versus left-handed pitching this year than right-handed pitching. So I think that will even out, and I think he'll get better at Dodger Stadium. I still believe in Kyle Tucker. But when you take a look at his Baseball Savant page, which he's never been a guy who like mashes the baseball in terms of hard hit rate and average exit velocity and barrel rate, but those numbers are way down this year. He is a guy who does rely on like contact and like hitting the ball in the gaps and that kind of stuff. He still has pretty good chase rates and walk rates, but those and his whiff rates have declined this year. So really just overall everything that makes you a good hitter. How hard you hit the ball, how consistently hard you hit the ball, how much contact you make, how much you swing and miss, chase, all that stuff is down, but I still watch his at-bats and see why he is a good hitter. I still see, plate discipline, good against left-handed pitching, all that stuff. He just really needs to go, hit the ball harder, find more gaps. He kind of misses a lot of pitches in the heart of the zone when I feel like when I watch him. So I think he can get going. I still believe in him. The Dodgers have definitely lowered him in the lineup to take more pressure off him. And right now Freeman and Ohtani are hot. So, all year it's going to if he continues this, it'll be under the radar. Wow, Kyle Tucker, outside of being a Dodger fan, it'll be wow, Kyle Tucker had a quiet year, but he's making way too much money to have an OPS in the low 700s. Again, he still's got a lot of season left to put up a very good first year with the Dodgers, and I still believe in him. So let's go, Kyle Tucker. Looking not much better, but a little bit better as of late. Let's go to game 2. All right, Justin Robleski is taking on Drew Rasmussen of the Rays. I talked about the 3 Rays pitchers, Nick Martinez, Drew Rasmussen, and then Shane McClanahan. Martinez has had one of the lower ERAs in the game. He is one of those guys that a little lucky to have the ERA that he's had. He gets no strikeouts, no whiffs, doesn't really throw hard, but he just, doesn't walk guys, attacks, mixes up his pitch as well, has got a good changeup. Rasmussen is one of the more underrated pitchers in the game. He gets a lot of ground balls, strikeouts, and does not walk anyone. You always hear me say, when you can combine those things, you're going to be elite. He also throws a ton of pitches, a lot of movement. He's very good. So Dodgers would have their hands full Tuesday night. All right, like I said, Justin Robleski, Drew Rasmussen, and the scoring is pretty quick. We can go to the bottom of the 6th inning. It is a 0-0 game. Shohei Ohtani's leading off the inning. First pitch of that inning, he gets a little cutter right over the heart of the plate, hits a missile out to dead center. His 15th home run of the year to make it 1-0, and the Dodgers would hold on to win by a score of 1-0. Will Klein, Kyle Hurt, and Tanner Scott combined for 3 scoreless innings out of the pen. Justin Robleski gets the win. He goes 6 innings pitched. Tanner Scott gets his second save of the series, his 9th save overall. And like I said, Dodgers win by a score of 1-0. Let's talk about Justin Robleski. Like I said, his 8th win of the year. 6 innings pitched, just 2 hits allowed. That's great. 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 5 strikeouts. All right. 5 strikeouts and 9 whiffs. All right. We all know Justin Robleski is not a big swing and miss pitcher. But you know what? Going up against the Rays, who are by far and away the best contact team in the game. Don't strike out. Lowest strikeout rate, lowest whiff rate. One of the better, Joe Davis said this earlier on the broadcast today, like the best contact team in like 10 years in terms of strikeout rate and stuff like that. The Yankees in the mid-2010s. So this team does not strike out at all. So I actually, going into this game, was like, hey, Robleski is one of the worst strikeout pitchers in the game. Rays are one of the best contact teams in the game. You're going to see no swings and misses in this game. But early on, he actually did get some whiffs. And 9 whiffs against the Rays when you're Justin Robleski, that's actually pretty solid. 5 strikeouts. And what I've noticed about Robleski, and I did some digging, is his fastball velocity has continued to climb the last few weeks. So on the year, he averages 94.1. In this start, 95.3. He was up to 96, 97 a couple times. All right, so the velocity continues to tick, and since May 29th, all right, which was a start against the Phillies. So prior to May 29th, he averaged 93.7 miles an hour on his fastball. Since then, he's averaged 95.2 miles an hour on the fastball. So almost a full 2 miles per hour up on the heater, all right? And that pitch generated 5 whiffs in this game against the Rays. And his fastball is actually his best swing and miss pitch at 20.5%. 20.5% whiff rate on his fastball. That's his best of all the pitches that he throws. And he basically is like a 2-pitch guy, 4-seamer slider. All right. His fastball is a very good pitch, even though the 20% whiff rate is not like anything crazy compared to all pitchers. But, you know, for him, that's pretty good. His fastball, compared to the league, though, is very good and very valuable. His 4-seam fastball is the 3rd most valuable fastball in the game, according to run value. All right. 186 batting average against on that pitch. So he has a very, very good fastball that gets to a lot of outs, gets him out of innings. All right. It's a pretty good pitch. 186, like I said, on that pitch. His ERA is 2.72, which is 12th best in baseball. He also has the 10th lowest walk rate in the game. So, Justin Robleski, I'm always talking about how he will regress. But I have said in the last month and a half, he has slowly incorporated a little bit more swing and miss. Nothing major, but we have seen more strikeouts. Like he's had less games where he just has 1 or 2 strikeouts. You know, he has slightly improved the whiffs in the swing and miss. And it does make me, like I've said before, more of a believer that he can maintain some of this. Again, I don't think he will have an ERA sub 3, come the end of September. But I do believe strongly that he can have an ERA sub 4, like a mid 3s ERA, maybe even low 3s. But, he's a dog out there, as I always say. He pounds the strike zone. One of the lower walk rates. He's very aggressive on the pitching end. He's got a great fastball slider combination. And, he's a very valuable pitcher for the Dodgers because he eats innings. And, at some point he's going to kick to the pen. Maybe the velocity will continue to climb whenever that happens at some point later in the year. Probably won't even happen until the postseason, and maybe the strikeouts will continue to climb. But shout out Robleski. He's got 8 wins on the season. Probably going to have double-digit wins this year and a great ERA. And who knows, maybe he can even have a chance to get into the All-Star game. And this is a guy that was never a top prospect. Went to a couple different colleges. Transferred a couple times. He's never really been a big-time prospect. High school, college, minor leagues. So he's carving out a pretty solid name, career, and he's carving out a nice season for himself. All right. 3 more scoreless innings from the Dodgers bullpen. Will Klein, Kyle Hurt, Tanner Scott. Those guys pitched a ton in this series. Again, that's what I wanted to see with the struggling pen. And then before we go to Game 3, Shohei Ohtani was obviously all the Dodgers' offense in this game. His 15th home run of the year. 4 in his last 6 games. That's prior to Wednesday's game. All right, so he's been hitting a lot of home runs as of late. And it's good to see because I know that he had the knee injury last week in Pittsburgh. Didn't play Friday. Came back Saturday. Hit the home run. Didn't do much in between these home runs. But the knee looks fine, and he's just been on a heater. And at some point when you're on like a heater for this long, it just turns into like you're having a monster season, which we already know that he has. But he's on pace to hit 40 home runs again, which is obviously a dip down from where he's been at the last couple of years. But considering that there was a point in May where he didn't even have double-digit home runs, now that he's really on pace to hit 40 home runs, he's gonna have 40 home runs and have some of the best pitching numbers in the game. And he's going to have an OPS over 900, flirting with 1,000. He's going to lead the league in WAR. I don't know if you guys pay attention too often to BWAR, Baseball Reference WAR. Shohei Ohtani is actually on track to have one of the higher BWAR seasons of all time. He's on pace to have a WAR over 13, which would be second all time in a season, which was Babe Ruth in 1923 when he had a BWAR over 14. So when you combine this elite pitching and his obviously elite offense, you're going to get one of the more valuable seasons in baseball history. He's on pace to have a historic season. All right. His slugging percentage, which was down earlier in the year, like I said, he was getting on base and eventually started hitting for average. He's hitting close to 300. The only thing that was kind of missing was his slug. Well, now he has the 11th best slugging percentage in the game. Since the start of May 15th, so over a month now, he has the highest slugging percentage in baseball at .717. That is in the territory of like Aaron Judge when he's, at his best. He currently has the fifth he's currently fifth in Major League Baseball in OPS and weighted runs created plus, a top 10 hitter in the game. Again, basically the best hitters in the National League are him and James Wood of the Nationals. So Shohei is back to his amazing offensive stuff like we've talked about before. Clutch home run in this game, and he will make the start Wednesday afternoon on the mound. He does not get the start in the lineup. He actually would pinch hit, though, which is kind of interesting. But he is on the mound, but not in the lineup for the Dodgers. Tommy Edman is leading off. And Miguel Rojas actually got the start as the DH. So let's go to that game. Game 3, Shohei Ohtani versus Shane McClanahan of the Rays. All right, so scoring gets underway in the bottom of the fourth inning, thanks to Alex Call, who gets the start in this game. He brings in Mookie Betts, 1-0 Dodgers. Right after that, Alex Freeland, he hits a single. That brings in Alex Call. That makes it 2-0. But in the fifth inning, kind of similar to Shohei's prior start against the Pirates. That was in the seventh inning of that game. Fifth inning, the Rays tally some runs together. All right, so Tyler Walls, sac fly to right field, makes it 2-1. And then Yandy Diaz, an RBI single, ties the game at 2. And then Junior Caminara, this was a RBI force out. Tommy Edman made a very nice play with the bases loaded. Got the out at second base thanks to Alex Freeland making also a nice play on the throw. But the Rays do take the lead on that play, 3-2 Rays. Then right after that, Richie Palacios, an RBI single off of Shohei. So the most earned runs Shohei has allowed in a start for all year. All right. In the fifth inning, though, the Dodgers would make it a one-run game thanks to an bases-loaded walk from Kyle Tucker. It makes it 4-3. They did strand some runners after that. Weren't too great with runners in scoring position. But it was all made up because Freddie Freeman hits his 12th home run of the year to dead center, 2-run shot to put the Dodgers on top 5-4, and the Dodgers would actually hang on. All right, the Rays would rally a couple times, especially in the ninth inning. Alex Vesia did not have his best command, but he escapes with the save, his third save of the year. Shohei Ohtani for 6. Edgar Henriquez, shout out to him. He goes 1.1. Big innings out of him. Jack Dreyer for 2/3. He looked pretty good for the first time in a while. Velocity was up. IVB on the fastball was up. Looked very good. And then, like I said, Vesia for 1. He was able to escape after allowing 3 walks. But with Cedric Mullins up 2 outs, bases loaded in the ninth, he gets the strikeout on a 3-2 count. Like as close as you can get to giving it up. But Vesia escapes. The Dodgers complete the save. Like I said, all 3 wins are by 1 run. So the slimmest of margin. All right, let's talk about Shohei and his start. This is basically like the first or second, I guess you could say, like not so great start for Shohei. 6 innings pitched, 7 hits allowed, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, just 5 strikeouts. He didn't allow any home runs, but the Rays, who are a very, very pesky team, all right, Shohei only induced 10 whiffs. All right. The most notable thing about Shohei is obviously the knee issue from a week ago, which he said himself he believed was caused by bad mechanics. All right. And obviously, if you watch this game, you know that Shohei had a blister, and he dealt with that. He's dealt with that lately, and you could see he had some blood on his hand during this start. Not anything scary, but it just is like something to keep an eye on because blisters can be such a bitch for pitchers, because you saw in the past, like as Dodger fans, Rich Hill dealt with that a lot. Walker Buehler dealt with that. Actually, the year the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020, Walker Buehler dealt with that like the entire shortened regular season, and then even throughout the postseason, he dealt with it. So it's difficult. It's one of the things for Shohei being a two-way player that it makes things difficult to kind of like nurse a blister on your hand, one of the hands you use to swing a bat, and then your pitching hand. So I do think it had an effect on his outing today, because if you take a look at his pitch mix, Shohei really, since like outside of his first couple starts, has really just relied heavily on his fastball and his sweeper. He actually doesn't throw even though he throws a lot of pitches, he really relies heavily on those two pitches. Like those are his two best pitches. He'll mix in curveballs, sinkers, splitters, cutters. In this game, though, 46% fastball, 52% fastball, 20% curveball, 11% sweeper, 10% splitter. He even mixed in some sliders, which we haven't really seen since last year, and then some sinkers. So I do kind of believe that like maybe the sweeper is affected by that blister because of the like added pressure you have to put on your fingertips on the ball. So hopefully we can get that under control. Blisters are one of those things again that's like, it didn't seem to affect him like his velocity or anything like that, and even his command was fine, because he allowed just one walk. So I don't really think the blister affected him in having a bad start. I think it affected his overall pitch mix. And then the Rays are just such a pesky offense that doesn't strike out, puts the ball in play. Like I gave credit to Robleski for generating 9 whiffs, but then I'm going to criticize Ohtani for getting 10 whiffs. I know that makes no sense, but Shohei is a big-time swing and miss strikeout pitcher, so he just wasn't able to do it against the Rays. And this was a game where you see that in this day and age, it's all about hitting the ball in the air, the slug, the home runs, the exit velocity, how hard you hit the ball. Shohei, the Rays are doing the complete opposite, trying to put the ball in play. They don't hit the ball hard. So, it's hard to win games a lot by doing that, because hitting home runs is one of the easiest ways to win games. If you outslug the opponent, you usually are going to beat the opponent. But you see in this game is a perfect example of why putting the ball in play can work, because when those balls find holes, it can lead to 7 hits, which I would imagine is the most hits Shohei's given up in a game this year, and why it led to obviously the 4 earned runs. So, pesky offense. I think Shohei will be fine. Like I said, I wonder if the blister was affecting his overall pitch mix. But in his first 67 innings pitched this year, he gave up 6 earned runs. In his last 5 2/3, he's given up 7 earned runs, or it's more than 5 2/3, I think. Anyways, his last 2 games, he's given up 7 earned runs. He hadn't given up 7 in his previous 11 starts. So, 1.47 ERA is what he now has. That would be second if he qualified, but behind Mizorowski. I've always said all year that I think Shohei has a good shot to win the Cy Young, but I wouldn't pick him, and I don't think he will. Especially when you consider, 1, the innings limits, and he's not going to throw as many innings as other guys. But then 2, Jacob Mizorowski and Christopher Sanchez are just pitching incredible this year. The one avenue for Shohei to get it would have been a freakishly low ERA, which is what he was doing for a lot of this year up until this point. He had a sub-1 ERA, and then his ERA was just barely over 1. Now it's up to 1.47, which is still amazing. He could go out his next start and get rocked, and he still would have a very good ERA. Not having the freakishly ERA even makes it more difficult when you don't have the innings, as many innings as the other guys in the race. So, it's probably something that we should have talked about a long time ago, that he was never going to have a sub-1 ERA. It would have been great to see, especially for his chances to win the Cy Young. I think that would have been his best route. His best avenue is to have, Mizorowski and Sanchez had way more innings and they're way better, but This dude had an ERA of, .98 or something like that, whatever, which easier to look now and say probably was never realistic. And at some point he was going to have an ERA, he'll probably finish with an ERA 2 something is what I would guess. So not worried about Shai. At some point he was due for a little bit of regression, even though he's been so dominant. It's not the same regression as like Robleski, who's kind of been fortunate at this point to have an ERA sub 3, but he was still technically, it's hard anyway. There's a reason why that's never really happened in baseball history to have an ERA that low. You probably have to go back to like Pedro Martinez or like the dead ball era, like days, where there was zero offense. So before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about the bullpen and then Freddie Freeman, and then we'll look ahead to the Baltimore series, which will be this weekend. 3 more scoreless innings for the bullpen, so you could do the math. 9 innings pitched from the bullpen this week, no earned runs. That's great, exactly what we needed to see. And they were all 1-run games, which is encouraging too. It just wasn't, blowout games for the offense. Like, the bullpen needed to be good to get the sweep and to get these 3 wins, and that's exactly what they were able to do. So that's great. Exactly what we wanted to see. 2 saves from Tanner Scott, who's been great this year. He's definitely putting together a bounce-back season. He's, become the Dodgers closer in the absence of Edwin Diaz. It would be interesting to see. We haven't gotten a lot of updates on Edwin Diaz. He did have the same surgery as Tarek Skubal, who came back. But I believe his surgery was before Skubal, so maybe he had a slightly different version that's not as sped up as Skubal. So maybe the timeline for Diaz to come back at some point in August is still the same timeline. But it would be interesting to see when he comes back, how do they utilize these guys, because they really like Tanner Scott, and his fastball slider combo looks great. The velocity is really, really good. And his slider is one of the more valuable pitches when you take a look at run value this year. And then Vesia, he made you sweat in this 9th inning. He didn't have his best stuff or best command, which happens with Vesia sometimes. He's one of those guys who, with the the great vertical break on his fastball, he's trying to pitch upstairs. And sometimes when you don't have that perfect release point at the top of the zone, you're gonna have days like this where the ball is just flying out of his hand, nowhere close. He was able to lock in and get the swing and miss, and ultimately get the save. Next time out, I'm sure, he'll be fine. But great sign from the pen. That's exactly what we needed to see. That's exactly what I wanted to see. And then I just wanted to talk about Freddie Freeman before we wrap up. He is raking, not just right now, but as a whole. You go and look at his career, Freddie Freeman, just every year. You could basically pencil in 130 WRC plus, an OPS of 130 or 830 or higher, 20 home runs. He hit his 12th home run this year. He's on pace for 25 this year, which would actually be the most he's had in a season with the Dodgers since 2023, which was his best season as a Dodger. His OPS is up to 850, which is top 30 in baseball. And by the way, he is 36 years old. All right, he's in his 17th big league season. An 867 OPS in his last 7 games, a 986 OPS his last 15 games, a 999 OPS his last 30 games. So the last month, he almost has a 1,000 OPS. Since the start of May 1st, he has his on-base percentage is 11th in the league. His WOBA is 14th. His WRC plus is 13th, and his OPS is 15th. So top 15 hitter in the game the last month and a half, and he's a top 30 hitter overall. In his 17th big league season, he has a 279 batting average, a 368 on base, a 482 slug, and an 850 OPS. Freddie Freeman, I came into this year confident that he's going to do just this, but there is always the back of your mind, Freddie is 36 years old. At some point, he will slow down, and you can even look at some of his numbers and say, maybe he's not been as exactly, he hasn't had an OPS of 900 in a couple years, but, the fact that he's 36 years old, 850 OPS, and it's that's just what's expected. He does it every single year, and if he continues to actually, heat up like he has last month, maybe he'll get into the 900s, and, he's just, it's just so true that, if you had to have one hitter, if you had to just pick, top 10 hitters in the game, I know that, top 10 hitters going forward for the next couple years, would you pick Freddie Freeman? No. But based off his track record and where he's still at right now, not just the past, but right now, 850 OPS, and we're in mid-June. Quickly it'll be late June. He's got an OPS of 850. Like, he is just consistent as it gets, and he'll obviously be in the Hall of Fame someday. But, 850 OPS for Freddie Freeman. He's been clutch. A little bit more pop this year. 12 home runs. That's great to see. Would love to see him get as close to 30 as he can. We know that he got his 25th 100 hit the other day. I think he is not far away from 400 home runs. I could be wrong about that, but I know that Shohei Ohtani is actually a couple home runs from 300. I think he's like 297, so that's pretty cool. Before we wrap up, the Baltimore Orioles, they will be in town this weekend in LA. Dodgers will play the Orioles. Sasaki will pitch Friday. The Orioles' estimated starters haven't been announced yet, I don't think. So Sasaki Friday, Yamamoto Saturday, Emmett Sheehan Sunday. The Orioles are an okay team, basically the definition of like mid. They're like a couple games under 500, a little underwhelming. Their best hitter is like Pete Alonso, I think. Gunnar Henderson has been off to a slow start. Colton Cowser, is it Ryan Ward? No, not Ryan Ward. That Ryan Ward is on our team. What the hell is the Ward who plays left field? Former Angel. I can't think of it right now. Anyways, Dodgers will look to continue this hot play and a nice, overall it was a nice bounce back series after their first series loss in a little while. It's nice to not just win a series but sweep, make a nice statement. I didn't talk about Mookie Betts. Obviously, I always talk about him every podcast. I'm hopeful that he could turn his season around. He has looked a little bit better as of late. He did get robbed a couple times in this series, too. Like a couple lineouts to the outfield, third base, a couple balls hit hard on the ground. He had a double that first game, and then I think he had a hit in the last two games as well. So would love to see him get a little bit more lucky. If you actually take a look at his expected slug, expected WOBA, it would suggest that he is unlucky. I know that I've said that a ton, but at some point I think his numbers will start to get better. I'm just hopeful, man, that he could turn it around. He's playing so great on defense. He still doesn't chase. He doesn't strike out a lot. The one thing that is different about his game is he's not walking like he used to. And if you think about it out loud, well, he doesn't have, his chase rate is still great, but he's walking way less. Why is that? Well, it is because pitchers are not scared to pitch him in the strike zone. So if you're not chasing, but you still have, but you don't have as great a walk rate, that is why, because pitchers are going to pound you in the strike zone. So he's got to do more damage in the strike zone, punish pitchers more often. But overall, great series. Bullpen was fantastic. Pretty good starting pitching. Shohei, Freddie Freeman, Kyle Tucker did some good things. Great stuff overall. Andy Paz even threw out a couple hits who had struggled as of late. So thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm glad I could get on here on a Thursday. I should be able to do the same thing next week. Dodgers will play the Orioles this weekend. They sweep the Tampa Bay Rays. They have the best record and the most wins in baseball, so they are looking great right now. All right, as always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow us on all social media at Talkin' Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Dick Talkin' Ball on X, and we will see you guys on Sunday to recap the Dodgers and the Orioles. Have a good night, everybody.